Once upon a time, I was a young associate lawyer at a really fancy DC big law firm. I went to an Ivy League school where, the rankings change every year, but both of these places were right at the top, right at the top of the list. I made a boatload of money, a mind-boggling sum for a person in their mid-20s. I had enough money for a fancy DC apartment. I had enough money to pay off my law school loans in a couple of years. I had enough money to buy the 27 pairs of fancy shoes that lived in my office underneath my desk. I was on a golden path, an ascending ladder up, climbing up to the partnership. I was good at my job. I did good work, and life looked great on paper. And yet, all of my identity, all of my worth, all of my value was tied up to that success on paper. On the inside, I was not eating, I was not sleeping, I was drinking too many glasses of white wine nightly at the mahogany oyster bar in the restaurant beneath our office, or, quite frankly, alone in my apartment at night. I was anxious, I was tightly wound, I was reactive and snappy and avoiding the things that would make me feel better and bring me closer to my truth. I skipped family trips. I gave up doing things I love to do. I missed my best friend's baby showers. I gave up things I just liked. I just had fun doing. I dated the wrong men. And listen, some of those, they were just normal 20-something iterative stuff. You date, you learn, you move on. And some of them were definitely not the right relationships for me to be in as long as I was. I had panic attacks that landed me in the ER where the doctors looked at me and said, of course you're stressed. You're in Ivy League law school. Buck up. Listen, at my lowest, I weighed 92 pounds. I am 5'9". My body knew the truth the whole time, way before my mind or my understanding could catch up with it, let alone my actions. This was so clearly not the life for me. And while those choices made sense to everyone else, while they looked good on paper, well, they allowed the people around me to understand me in a way that helped them organize and put me in a box that they could make sense of. Well, I got so much validation and head nods of approval. I knew deep down the whole time, way before I could see it, that this was not the place for me to be. This was not my truth. But I also knew that if I claimed my truth, I would ruffle a ton of fucking feathers. I would disappoint people. I would disappoint my parents. I would disappoint the adults in the room. But I also knew that I would not be disappointing myself any longer. So I did it. I waddled down the carpeted hallway to the managing partner's corner office in my paisley J. Crew pencil skirt and my costume jewelry and my 4-inch heels and my face full of makeup. And I said, thank you so much for all you've given me. And I am quitting to go teach yoga. Oh my gosh. Okay, listen. 12 years later, there are plenty of times that I move far away from my truth, that I forget my truth, that I abandon myself, that I still over-explain, I overcommit, I overcare, I over people please. Like, I am not perfect at this. I am still learning every single day. Maybe you are too. Okay, so if any of this resonates, buckle up. Buckle up for Amanda Baudier's episode. You cannot miss this. You cannot miss her version of that story and how she is committed to remembering her way back to the truth every single day. Even when she forgets it, even when we forget it. We forget, we remember, we forget. We hope we can remember as often as we forget, or nearly as often. It's just like that. Welcome to the 40 portal, babe. I'm Catherine Zack. Let's dive in. Okay, so I remember walking in, this must have been about 1.5 years ago, to our mutual friend Kate's, I think it was like her birthday party. I think it was her 39th birthday or some other celebration. And there was a few women there and we're all like, hi, hi, hi. And then there was this moment where the two of us were like, do I know you? You remember that?
Yes, I know. And I'm having the whole like, you resemble your sister a lot. And maybe maybe it's almost like you don't, but because I have such familiarity with her and her face, that sister thing, because I have a sister and people are like, you guys look so much alike. And it's like, we actually don't, but there are genetic things that are just like so uncanny when you know someone's sibling. And I'm like, wait, am I talking to Liz? No.
Yes. You were
Yeah.
like, are you Liz Zack's sister? And I was like, yes. I'm like, wait, are you Amanda from Marquee? Like,
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. One of my 9 lives was Amanda from Marquee, which is fucking hilarious. So,
yeah, because
yeah.
you worked with my sister in like the New York City nightclub scene of
Yeah.
like the late 2000s, early 2010s. Like,
Yep.
that was a moment in time.
Oh, it was. It was. I am so grateful for that time. My lore will always be superb, and it becomes more and more like hilarious the older I get, the more that people are like, you did what? So, there was a time where you'd look at me and be like, oh, yeah, that tracks. And now is not that time. Now it's like, it does feel like another life.
Well, I think that's funny too, because I have a similar, like, I had a very different 20-something life than I do now. Um, and the further and further I get away from it, my relationship to it changes, but also like people are like, they're either, I can't believe you were a corporate lawyer, or they're like, oh, I could see that.
Yeah. I could see it only because I've been in the game of people's personal evolution for so long that like nothing, like the guy who was one of my first shamanic teachers was like a venture-backed startup CEO. And so, we get to change and evolve. So I could see you at the law firm. I'm glad you're not there anymore, but I could see it.
Mhm. And isn't that funny then that like whatever it was, 10, 12, 15 years later, we just happened to meet up again. And I think there's probably something to that like overlapping pathway thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I am at an annoying place in my life where I see the connections behind everything. And if it doesn't make sense yet, I'm just waiting for it to. And the thing is, like, there was a time in my life where I didn't think that way and I didn't believe those types of things. So when people would say that to me, I'd be like, whatever, this is just a coincidence, whatever. So I try not to push that belief on other people because it's one of those things when you when you become privy to the magic and the threads connecting everything, it's just like makes life a little bit more fun, a little bit more twinkly. But it's not something that someone can like tell you is true and then you believe it's true. You have to like really experience it. And I have in so many different little pockets of my life where I'm like, really this? Come on, another wink from the universe, which is, a good place to be.
Maybe we'll dive into this more, but like I'm curious, do you feel like that wink is something that you're picking up on more at this age? Do you feel like it's something you've grown into, or has that always been present for you?
Oh, it has not always been present for me. It is definitely something that has been a product of getting older, but also only if you make the aligned scary choices. It is indicative of listening. The more I think about like synchronicities and universe winks as like the breadcrumbs that are leading us on our path. And when we're on our path, we get more winks because probably we've had to endure like, challenges, judgments, loss of income, right? We had to make like tough choices. When I was following the path of this makes sense, this is profitable, people think this is cool, um, I wasn't getting winked at because I wasn't on my path. I was on a path, a great path, a cool path, but it wasn't my path. And so there nobody was winking at me. You
And
know?
do you think that that path, that former path was like you said it's not your path. Do you think it was an external path? Like you're like, "Oh, that I should do that. I see that," or people are telling me to do that. Like, do you
Yeah,
feel like yeah, okay.
1,000,000%. I moved to New York to go to Columbia undergrad. And I was public school girl, middle class girl, like, my parents are n not successful or known or anything like that. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and so when I got to New York City, an Ivy League, the desperation first of all, applying to and getting into Ivy League, all of it was just, like, desperation to be somebody, to matter, just a desperate core wound that I was trying to heal through being recognized by others as somebody. And so when I discovered the New York City nightlife scene, I remember my first night at a cool club, I'm like 19 years old, somehow talked my way in the door. It was the first night that Jay-Z and Beyonce had been spotted out in public. This is summer after my freshman year of college. And I remember having the cloudy vodka hazed thought, like, I am gonna do this for the rest of my life. And I made a really great career out of the nightlife industry for a number of years. And when I tell you that when I told people what I did, it was universally like, right? Like, I was cool enough to get into any party. I got to fly in private planes. I mean, I got to do all of the things that you like think make you somebody in this world. So for a period of time, it worked until that medicine kind of wore off. And I was like, oh, like this is, first of all, this is not me. This is not like indicative of like who I am, my gifts, what I came here to do, but also like, ew, this is a little skeezy. Um, but as far as like building cultural capital, like I'm still honestly capitalizing on some of the cultural capital that I built by being a part of that world. There are still people who validate me, will give me the time of day because of who I used to work for or who I used to associate with. And I'm like, great. Like that is the least important cool thing about me. But if that's gonna get me, if that's gonna get me a discovery call, fine. I used to be a partner in a nightlife firm. Cool.
Yeah. You said like this is not me. That was something you said and kind of like, but I'm curious because I feel like for me, all that was necessary. And I think it was a version of me, or like we took one small piece of my personality and my gifts and my talents and like that was where I went. And like when you were talking about the social capital, I felt that too. And it was like people just understood what to do with me too. When they're like, oh, I see. Okay, you went to this school, you're a lawyer. Okay, I can put you in this box and I can handle you.
Yeah. Yeah. I sitting where I sit now, and especially being a parent, I actually and I don't know that this is true for everyone, but I think that if I had been more universally accepted and honored for some of my more intrinsic gifts versus, like, my extrinsic capabilities, I don't know that it would have been necessary for me to go through all the things that I did. Now, I believe in karma, I believe in destiny, like, in this incarnation, sure, right? Like, this was the hand I was dealt, and it played it out at this point, I could say quite well. I'm very happy with the overall trajectory, but when I see like, when I think of, like, my children or young people, um, I think there is a path towards self-actualization that can come less through, struggle, through desperation, because I see it. Like, I see people who were given a lot of really rooted guidance and, like, were really honored and praised and, like, allowed to sort of just, like, be who they were, and I can think of, like, specific examples of people where I'm like, "Wow, they're, like, so capable and present and embodied, and they're so young," and then I look at, like, who their parents were, how did they grow up, and I'm like, "Oh, this makes sense." You know, like, I have a colleague or friend who, like, mother was taking her to yoga ashrams when she was 18, and so, like, she became a spiritual teacher in her 20s and, like, didn't have to, like, do cocaine and work in nightclubs for 10 years and, like, have a, whatever, death and rebirth moment, and, like, I don't wanna say we're in similar places. She, like, went back to school, got a PhD, et cetera, but, like, kind of. And I actually think, I don't know that it's always necessary to, like, go through that.
Have all the grit. I don't know. I think I like the grit too, though. I think the grit is, yeah, I think I don't know. There's something about that too. So we could just keep going and going and going, but I want to loop back so our listeners can know who's talking here and who we are and what we're doing. It's so good. Okay, so like I'm going to go through the 40 portal 10, which is maybe more like 12 questions. And the first one is like, is what's your name? What are your pronouns? And like, is there a story around your name and like your identity? Is there anything more? You can just tell us your name and your pronouns.
Yeah, okay, Amanda Baudier, she, her. Sometimes I say we, us, ours, just to be annoying and fun because 'cause I'm, very, very into, like, collectivism. Story around my name, like, my actual, like, my birth name or my surname.
Yeah, or just how that fits for you right now. Like, is that your name? Has that always been your name? Like,
Yeah, so my maiden name was Amanda Smear, which is like a very less
now I remember. Yes. Mm-hmm.
very less pretty, name, and it's funny, I was thinking about this the other day, how it's so weird that we get married and change our name, but I, like, very much like, I'm very glad that I married someone with a pretty my husband's from New Orleans, so it's like a Cajun last name, but it sounds French, it sounds fancy.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I very much resonate with my name and feel like this was meant to be my name. I have never, to be honest, like, loved the name Amanda. My mom told me that she almost named me Miranda, which is from The Tempest, and when she told me that, I was like, "God, I wish you had named me," but then Sex and the City came out, and then, it wouldn't be Miranda from The Tempest, it would be Miranda from Sex and the City, so I guess I'm happy with Amanda.
Yeah, and you and like half of 1980s
It's true.
babies are named Amanda.
Yeah. Oh, here's another story. When I was in preschool, I've always been, like, tall and, kind of a well-boned woman. I was called Big Amanda. There was a little Amanda, and I was Big Amanda.
So we're being put in boxes in preschool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Big Amanda, age 4. Yeah, never forgot that. Yeah.
But now you're like, big Amanda, babe.
Yeah, yeah. BDE Amanda.
Oh god. So good. Yeah, that that energy. That's good. Okay. So like introduce yourself as though you're not talking about your resume, if you can at first, and then maybe we can loop into some of your official titles.
Yeah, I'm Amanda. I'm a deeply curious, playful human who doesn't fuck around.
That's good. And how do you spend your days being deeply curious and not fucking around?
Oh, I'm all up in people's business, like, just constantly. I mean, all up in people's business, and people pay me to be like really like way all up in their business. You want my actual professional?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah. So my work kind of falls into two buckets. I'm a spiritual teacher, and so I do that primarily through a group that I am the energetic leader of called the Becoming Collective, which is rooted in somatic practices, self worth repair, and spiritual connection. And then I also work with entrepreneurs one on one. So I have been coaching entrepreneurs one on one full time since 2022 when I left kind of like working for other people, working in first hospitality and then in kind of the business of wellness and startup world. Um, and it started out really as coaching founders, both tactically and energetically, to kind of survive the founder experience and not succumb to burnout and overwhelm. Because I had a very severe burnout experience in my 20s, which maybe we'll get to. Um, Now I've become known as sort of like the, hey, I'm a startup founder and I'm going through a spiritual awakening while I'm raising capital for my venture backed startup. What do I do? And my name gets kind of passed through the grapevine, which is awesome because that's like what I want to be working with people on really is like, um, as I've gotten older and as I've gotten kind of just like more deep in my purpose, I don't care about businesses anymore. I care about people. I care about the founder. I care about their journey, their experience, their life. And so that allows me to kind of transfer that care to the strategy of their business, their KPIs, their P&L, et cetera, et cetera. But like that part, I don't care. Like I care about the human in the context of the journey. Um, but from that regard, like I really do get I get to be so deeply curious. And really, and I really the curiosity is not like morbid curiosity. Like I really care. I care so much. And so I get to use that impulse in a way that feels like fruitful for me, fruitful for them. So it's yeah, it's pretty awesome.
That's cool. Tell us, if you will, how old you are and how old do you feel?
I am 42 and what day is it? 42 and 9 days. I turned 42 on January 2nd,
Happy
2026.
birthday. Oh my gosh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah, I will sometimes joke that I either feel 4 or 4,000. There is no like in between. But I feel very fortunate that like I feel emotionally quite mature. And I can own that. Like I'm an emotionally mature person. I've done a lot of I think I've always been emotionally mature and that's a trauma response. But it, one of those ones that kind of works in your favor. Knock on wood, the ghosts of perimenopause and autoimmune and gut health, like none of that shit has come for me yet. I feel good. I have energy. I sleep well. Like I don't want to be like, it's like, oh, you turn 40 and everything breaks. No, it hasn't. Knock on wood. I feel good and solid, but that's probably because I had my, big health crisis at 28. And, now I feel like I live in, like, I'm not a health freak at all. I don't diet. I exercise ish. I'm not like a supplement girly, but yeah, I feel very fortunate to feel like very healthy and energetic and robust at 42.
I would say that when I was in big law, like when I was living that life, I felt older than I do now. And I was
Mm,
like 26.
yeah. I didn't feel is like what I like. I was just like, just going. Like there wasn't like I didn't pause to think like, do I feel good? Do I feel bad? It didn't matter how I felt. Like it wasn't a consideration. I was just a machine. So I don't know if I felt good or bad. I mean, some of my health markers would imply that I should have felt bad, but I don't remember feeling. That's what's really crazy and why I love teaching embodiment because I'm not like somebody like I wasn't like a dancer who was just always this like sensual embodied being. No, I was like a burnout workaholic robot who was like, "Oh fuck, there's something below my brain that I need to pay attention to." So I think I have like a better maybe understanding of like what disembodiment is. But yeah, I truly could not describe how I felt because I don't know. It didn't matter.
I think like looping back to what we were talking about at the top of our convo, like that's where I think the grit comes in your favor, right? To teach something like embodiment, if you spent so much time living in the opposite, like that's going to make the work resonate so much more.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because when I worked at a company called Sakara, which is an organic vegan meal delivery company, and it's a big business, like, 9-figure a year business. I was head of business development there. And while I was working there, we had this woman that was like kind of like a meditation influencer that we like paid to come and teach meditation once a week at the office. And nobody would go. Like, nobody would show up. People would just be, like, sitting at their desk, and the girl would be, like, in the conference room, and it'd be, like, me and, like, one other person. I'm like, "Oh, this is so embarrassing." And so I asked the people, like, "Why aren't you going? Like, why aren't you doing this?" And they were all like, "This chick comes in here with, like, her white robes on. She doesn't know anything about Slack and email, and she doesn't understand," like, they just didn't relate to her. Um and so then we got rid of her and I started teaching the meditation. And that was like a foreshadowing of where my career was going to go. Cause at that time I was very much like a businesswoman who like had all these spiritual hobbies. Versus like someone who was like outwardly like, I am a spiritual teacher and I do these things. It was like I was a sales and marketing person.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think that is I think that, containing multitudes is just totally necessary to actually connect and, like, relate to other people in your work. So I feel like we're, like, circling around this moment, and I'm really playing still with defining this concept of, like, what a portal is, and I just know that when I turned 39, I was like, "There's something happening," and it's not a feeling I haven't felt before. Like, I've been there at these kind of crossroads and these real, like, these, like, very, like, trial kind of, like, the only way through is through, and I'm wondering, like, how you would define portal and if this event that happened in your late 20s, like, was a portal for you, and if you wanna tell
Woo!
us a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Was it ever? So I would define a portal as a moment that you pass through in life where once you've passed through that moment, you are forever changed. So like for sure birth is a portal, right? You have a kid, you're like, who was I 10 minutes ago? You're just a totally different human. And so the portal of my late 20s was I was 28. I was going to a routine gynecological checkup, and my doctor was like, Amanda, your pulse is totally erratic. Like, you need to go to the cardiologist right now. You need to go to the hospital right now. And I was like, you're crazy. I have a meeting in 45 minutes. I had like a phone in one hand, a Blackberry in the other. I was like, you're nuts. And she was basically like, well, I'm not going to write you a birth control prescription. I'm actually like terrified for you. Like, you need to go to the hospital. So I'm like, fuck. Okay. Like, go to the hospital. Long story short, I was experiencing arrhythmias that were so severe that my heart was skipping every third beat, which was basically like, every doctor was like, you could drop dead at any moment. Like, what are you doing? What's going on? And there was really no like direct cause of it other than nervous system dysregulation, extreme stress, extreme burnout. Um, and this was end of 2012 when this was going on. So like I don't know if Instagram existed, but nobody was talking about nervous system dysregulation. No one was talking about burnout. No one was talking about anything. They were just like, Amanda, you need to get heart surgery. I had to get an ablation to basically burn off the spots of my heart that were sending out these like bad rhythms. Um, and, that was a fucking wake up call because I was already, believe it or not, a trained yoga teacher. I was doing yoga, but I was doing like hardcore. I was going to like Ashtanga for like, 90 minutes every morning. It wasn't like yin. That
Which,
was
like,
not
tracks, right? Like, of course you were, like, doing, whatever, Mysore at 5 a.m., like, going crazy. Yeah.
correct. Yes. And, but it was also one of those moments where they're like, oh, you're probably going to need a pacemaker. You're probably going to need to be on this medication. And the medication that they gave me until the surgery, actually like sped up my pulse because my pulse rate is naturally really slow. And so when I push myself to, right, um, it becomes erratic. And now I was getting married that March. We were reopening Marquee in May, which I had just become a partner. Like, I'm in my 20s, I'm a female, I'm a partner of this big nightclub in New York City. I'm like, I don't have fucking time to get surgery. Like, what's going on, And in that moment, like, hearing doctors kind of talk to you about, like, what your prognosis is, like, what you need to do, I really had to decide, like, am I going to change my lifestyle, or am I gonna decide, put the pacemaker in, let's fucking go, you know? Um, and it wasn't an easy decision because my entire identity, my entire worth, I like, God bless my parents, I don't have a close relationship with them. They don't really give me advice, never have, like, they're very in their own trauma journeys, but no one was like, "Amanda, of course you need to take care of yourself. Of course, take time off." It was like me, myself, and I alone in New York City in an apartment that I'm paying for, and I'm just like, I have no fucking clue what to do, because all of my self-worth was tied to people called me a machine, and I was great at my job, and the crazy thing is, I didn't know anything was wrong with me. It wasn't like I was like, "I'm so tired, I'm so burnt out, I'm emotional." Like, I was in it to win it. My mental health, my emotional health, my work production, you would not have been able to tell. It was just my body. My body couldn't keep up. So I will sometimes joke I have, like, the will of a lion and the nervous system of, like, a baby bunny. And, I was designed that way for a reason, you know? So that was a fucking portal. That was truly, yeah.
And how? Because like, I there's so much there to unpack, and thank you for sharing that. I'm like, I don't like, I wanna just let the story speak for itself, but also, I don't know, I feel like sometimes when we're in it and we're in these things, and like you were saying, that wasn't an easy choice, even though maybe looking at it now, I could see that, like, the evidence a little bit differently, but I think we kind of, when we're in these moments too, we're just like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And I'm wondering, like, how long from that doctor's appointment to, like, how long was that portal? Like, how long did it take for you to get out on the other side, like, of claiming a different way for yourself? Still in it? Still in it?
5 years. No, no, no.
Yeah.
So, I'll give you once again the abridged because I don't need to go into every permutation in detail, but so I had the surgery and I knew I had to take 6 weeks off of everything as a part of just, like, the recovery, and during that 6 weeks, I kind of wrestled with the fact that, like, I need to take a sabbatical. And so by the time I was, like, ready to recover, I, like, marched into the offices. I told them, I'm like, "I'm taking a year off." They're like, "You'll be back." In my mind, I'm like, "I'm never coming back." I during that year, I was like I said, already a certified yoga teacher. I did my MBSR certification. I became an IIN health coach. I went to India for 3 months. I was teaching yoga and mindfulness full time. But by the end of the year, I was broke and they were luring me back with a big salary, promises of like, you can leave every day at 6. You don't have to be there at night anymore, blah, 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 blah. And I went back and I went back and within like 6 weeks, I was pregnant. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to go back. I'm going to save up a little bit of money and then I'm going to find a more aligned career. Okay. Then I got pregnant, and my husband was a startup founder, not paying himself. I was the one with insurance. I was the one with the, six-figure paycheck. So, you know, I was basically, I don't want to say stuck, but I kind of was. Of course, like, you know, hindsight 2020, I could have left sooner than I did, but I was scared and I didn't believe in myself. And I hadn't really done the healing that I needed to do to be like, "Wait, like, Amanda, you can't keep kicking this can down the road. Like, this is not who you are. This is not what you're meant to be doing." And so, basically, I came back from maternity leave and took me almost 2 years to find a job that was, like, a good enough salary, like, that I could pivot to, and that's when I left and went to Sakara, which was March of 2018, and that was really the start of me being like, "Okay, I'm on the path to becoming who I came here to be and not living from a place of fear and trauma patterning, but really making choices that were like a little bit more brave. Because I was moving from a lot of fear for most of my life.
Yeah. This kind of brings us to one of the top, the 10 questions. It's like, what is one thing that your 10 years ago self would be really surprised to learn about you today?
Oh, I'm gonna get emotional. My 10 years ago self, I think would be surprised at the level of financial security that I managed to create through aligned work. That version of me had a real story that make money, do this, or like live in poverty, but maybe do something that feels more soul aligned. That was like very, I mean, that was governing my choices for a long time because I, like, as I said, middle class person, don't come from money, didn't have a rich husband, like was paying all my own bills and all of that kind of stuff. And so I think that would really surprise her. She would just be very happy. 32-year-old me would be, like, very, very happy to see where we are 10 years later.
I love that. I love that. Okay, this question is like, what is one narrative, one script that you were given about a woman at the age that you are now? That just does that map onto your life? How do you feel about it? Is there anything about like 42?
Oh, there are no scripts that I ascribe to 40 for to any age. Um, and I sometimes think about my, like, bloodline and, like, my mom was the first woman in her family to even go to high school. Actually, like, both of my grandmothers were, like, married before they were 18, like, didn't go to like, I come from humble, coal miner, steel mill worker, that, kind of stock, and so the choices and the identities that were presented to me as a child came from such a wildly different set of possible options. And what I really love about, like, some of the scripts that I've thrown out is that, like, I am, like, married, I have 2 kids, I live in, like, a rural area, but I'm still, like, wild and free and, like, a badass and a professional. Like, I didn't choose, like, either, like, a normal wife mother path or, like, this, like, countercultural. Like, there's a lot about my life that's very, like, not countercultural in a way. And so I think it's just like, yeah, letting yourself not choose from the colors in the crayon box. Just, like, choosing from your imagination and letting those choices be just as valid as, like, examples that you've seen presented to you.
So this leads me to another question, a new one for today's episode. Where do you look for wisdom then? Like if you're not looking at like that crayon box, you're like, it's not there for me. Like where are you finding those
Yeah,
resources?
it's so interesting because I have become such an internally and nature and spirit guided person to the degree, and, like, you're one of the first people that I'm, like, talking about this publicly because sometimes I think it can sound a little like, "I just go within for my answers," It can sound like a little, egotistical, but what we were talking about initially, like the winks and the synchronicities. I'm always rewarded for trusting myself. I'm always rewarded for listening within. So I do a lot of like drum journeying, dream work, nature, journaling. Like I do all of the deep excavatory things for like the really important stuff. Um, I was joking with a client the other day, all the women I look up to are, like, in their 70s, like, the Tara Brachs and the Krista Tippett's and, like, these kind of, like, much, much older wise women, but I don't even get into the details of I do not care what other people are doing. It it is not my business, it doesn't affect me, it's not compelling to me, um the choices that I have made that even, like, everything I'm doing now, it's funny because I've been in, I don't know, situations where I've, like, run ideas by people, and people are like, but then I do it and it fucking works. So, I'm just, like, started to, and even in my coaching, like, I would say to people, "I don't have any proactive things to tell you until you've spoken many, many words to me." Because I don't believe in out of the box, off the shelf, plug and play. I just don't believe in that. I really believe that everything that we are doing should be us shaped, as specific and tailored and, like, you know, sewn onto. I was talking to my son about this the other day, how back in the day, you couldn't just go to like, get it, something your size. You went to the tailor and they sewed it for your body. Like, that's how we want our life to feel. Like, we went to the tailor and just gave them a roll of fabric we liked, and then, like, they made it just for us. Like, that's how I want life to feel.
Mhm. I think 2 things that came to me as you were talking. The self, like, going inside and listening, like, that is a big part of my practice and my work, and I would say it's actually quite boring and quite tedious, like, and, like, it's, like, the least Instagram worthy thing that I do, and it requires, like, a daily practice of sitting with myself for as long as I can every single day. The longer, the better, and the reality of it is that I don't have all that time in the world every single day, but also the reality is, like, I choose to create that time from places like, if you send me an email, good luck, like, I'm probably not gonna answer it. Like, I mean, that's just, like, a place where I'll scrape a bunch of time from is, like, my digital clutter, and that's good. That's okay with me. And then when you were talking about women in their, 70s, I think we probably share some of the same, like, role models or teachers from afar. But I also have the gift of being in community with and in company with a lot of older women in their 60s, 70s, not older, is like they're older than I am, 60s, 70s, 80s, that I get to see in real life and observe. And it's like, those are, I mean, I would rather observe a real woman who I know in my community and have a kinship with, who's in her 70s or 80s, than open up my phone and look at anything that's happening there.
Yeah. I mean, invite me to those hangs because
Yes. Come to my side of the river. Come up to the studio. It's so good.
we were on a hike. This is a moment that will, like, it will be in my mind for the rest of my life. My older sister and I were on a hike, and there were, these 2 older women there, probably in their 70s, maybe even their 80s. And my daughter all of a sudden goes, "Mom, someone put trash in the creek," because we were at a swimming hole. And the woman's like, "No, no, no, that's our heavy whipping cream. We're keeping it cold because when we leave here, we're gonna go home and make whipped cream." And we were like, "Okay." Whatever life choices led them to, like, bring their can of heavy whipping cream and, like, stick it in the cold swimming hole in preparation to go home and make fresh whipped cream. I'm like, "Goals.
That,
That's it.
that, that. No notes.
Swimming
That's
pool with
good.
your
I
friends,
love that.
can of whipping cream." Like, that's what inspires me. So yeah, in those moments, the real life role models for sure, because the other thing is, and you might also know this, but, like, from being up close and personal, like, people aren't necessarily who they seem to be. You know the saying of, like, "Don't meet your heroes." I've met a lot of heroes and been like, "Oh, they're not nice. They don't seem like they're having fun." The things that really matter to me, like, are you nice? And do you seem like you're genuinely having fun? Because, like, if it's not if it's not those 2 things, I don't want it.
I just wonder too, and this might be a whole other episode, but, like, when I don't feel like, the older women that I'm graced to know, like, I don't feel a disconnect or a dissonance. Like, listen, I think they, like, own their earthly humanness, and it's
Yeah.
like there seems to be less of, like, a performative aspect to it that I find very
Yeah.
awesome.
I find yeah, I feel more connected to older women than I do that women that are, like, a generation below us, And it makes me sad for the women who are a generation below us because there was never a time when, like, perfection or comparison wasn't a part of their lived reality. Whereas, like, we got a chunk of our life before that was a thing, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's funny, part of this project to me, and this is something I'm exploring anew, like I've kind of been living it for a while, but now I'm like, oh, I want to cultivate this. Like right now in this journal, in this book, in these submitted pages of wisdom, the the youngest person, I need to get people in their 20s, but the youngest woman in this book is 33 who's submitted her questions. And the oldest person I have in this book is 82. So like this idea of cross generational wisdom and collecting that and like being able to tell each other really like what that means. So I want to hop into a piece of wisdom in a moment, but I'm going to ask you one more like top 10 question, which is what pisses you off about how women in their 40s are represented or marketed to or portrayed?
Yeah, I mean, the anti-aging industry is maybe not the newest, but, certainly a strong arm of the patriarchy that has become so, unavoidable. Like, I talk to I this is a topic that's coming up with my 40-ish friends all the time, which is, like, it is no longer, like, exceptional to have, like, lots of face work done, right? It used to be, like, like, celebrities did it, sure, whatever, but not like the lady that works at your kid's daycare or, like, the woman at the checkout, and now it's like everybody's got lips, everybody's got Botox, everybody's now getting freaking facelifts, and these things are not cheap. I was chatting with a friend and she was telling 'cause lots of movement in his face, but, um the amount of money that women are spending, it's like it's not a $200 facial every month. It's like $7,000 every couple of months like these, and money is power. And, I don't want to see women I'm also a Capricorn, so, like, I do care about, financial security. I don't want to see women spending money that they don't necessarily have on things that are just, like, shooting chemicals in their face, and it's like, no judgment. I'm not saying that I will never, like, do anything, but I just wish it wasn't I wish it didn't exist. I wish it wasn't an option. I wish that crayon had never been put into the box because now I think about you might laugh at this. Sometimes I'm like, if I didn't have a husband, I think I'd just completely let myself go. But I feel kinda guilty. Like, everyone's, getting their stuff all fixed up, and I'm just over here, like, descending into hagdom. Like, is that but I don't like having that thought. I don't even like that that's something that women our age have to contend with, because even, like, 10 years ago, it wasn't I don't think, maybe I was just less aware of it, but, like, I don't think, like, my older cousins who are in their 50s were, like, thinking about getting Botox as, like, just normal women going about their life. It wasn't a choice. I don't know.
Well, it's like this is also why I want to have the podcast because I think there's so much more texture and nuance to like the two-dimensional things that we pull up and like see when we open our phone. And like, yes, this stuff does come up, our appearance, like this stuff comes up in the real conversations I'm having with my friends, but it's like number 17 on the list of like so many more interesting and vital and like fun and sexy and free and powerful conversations that we're having. Like, but you wouldn't know it if you opened up Instagram because the only thing being said these days are just so external appearance
Yeah.
driven things.
Yeah. How do I look 25 when I'm 42? I don't wanna fucking look 25. That sounds like a lot of work, a lot of money. No, thanks.
Yeah. I look how I look. I look how I look. It's good. Okay, so last of the top 10 questions I'll ask you, and then we'll move into the portal wisdom is what is still ahead of you?
Everything. I just literally got started, like, this year. Um naming and claiming that my work moving forward will all be in the spiritual realm and not in the realm of business is for me the a claiming of something that has probably been true for me since I was a little girl, but once again, like was not encouraged. I didn't have a through line between like, well, how do I make a living? And like, how do I make this my life? And the good thing or the I mean, not it's good is a very small word for what I'm implying is like being a wise woman, being an elder, like I'm only gonna get older. I'm only gonna get wiser. Thank God my purpose was not to be like a bikini model or, something where you kind of like tap out at a certain age. No, like there is the amount of curiosity and passion and like endless craving for I have for the work that I'm doing moving forward. It feels like everything is ahead of me. And I also know that with all the things that I've left behind, all the baggage, all the weight, all the judgment, all the self-policing that I've left behind it's actually just going to feel so much better than anything I've done up to this point. And this is like new, like very, like 38, whenever 2022 and forward is really when I started to be like, yeah, fuck everything else. Like, this is my life. Here I go.
Mhm. I feel very similar. I'm like, I'm just getting started, but also I don't feel brand new because I feel like I've learned a lot of things, and there's more to learn. But you do know this book, right? You do know Women Who Run with the Wolves. So you just entered a new 7-year cycle. I'm trying to find it because I know the list is in the back. We're 42 now. That's like the teacher cycle, I think. Anyways, we'll find it. I'll link to it in the show notes. But yeah, this is definitely a new cycle. And
I ha
28 is a big year too.
Oh, yeah. Because everyone talks about the Saturn return at 28, which, like, mine was obviously, like, knocked my socks off. And I do believe that, but I think, like, 42, I'm excited for all that's yet to come. A lot less proving myself and a lot more just being myself, It's like, yeah,
It's a
being
good transition to our final little bit here where I'm going to read you a question from the portal. This is a bit of portal wisdom, but this one is a question because it was submitted by someone under 40. It's a big question. It's a broad one. So I just want you to like say back wherever it takes you, wherever you go. I picked this one for you. Okay. The open question I'm living is, how do I build trust in myself and in the universe? In my teenage years, I wanted romance and art and adrenaline. In my 20s, I wanted to conquer and control the chaos of myself and the world. Now in my 30s, I want peace, serenity, and to live with a full sense of trust in myself and in the universe, in spite of the imperfections, the dysfunction, the noise, the violence, the chaos of today's world. I am taking certain risks and following my gut, but without 100% sense of trust. A lot of it feels quite scary and tenuous. My dream and desire is that it's all okay and going to be okay, that having trust is the right thing, that I have no regrets.
Mm, yeah. Wow, that is a big question. I spent a lot of my time thinking about this question. How do we find trust? How do we find a sense of rootedness in a world that feels very unrooted and unrooting? And there is really nothing tangible that we can kind of tether ourselves to that is going to have the same level of consistency and surety as some kind of faith. And so this could be spiritual faith. This could be faith in creator, in nature. And when we can tether and tie our embodiment, right, our sense of being in our own body, in our own, because trust we need to be able to decode what's happening in our nervous system. Our nervous system is constantly scanning and responding to our environment and providing us not just with anxiety and all the things, that we kind of talk about in mainstream society, but it is telling us exactly everything we need to know, especially as women. We are all such intuitive goddesses. We're oracles. Like we have all of this embodied wisdom. We start to feel shaky and like lack that trust when we start looking outside, right? What is this person doing? What is that person doing? Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this right? I like to think about a through line that's like us anchored up into whatever we believe in up there, and then anchored right down into the earth and feeling kind of like a consistent flow of energy up, in, down, in. And whenever that feels off, that's when I feel shaky. That's when I lose trust. And so sometimes I will tell my clients to almost imagine that you're just like plugging yourself in, like not like into the wall, but like, an electric toothbrush has like a base and you're just like plug it into the base. And what that requires though, the big thing that I think people struggle with is not so much that part. It's like, it's not going to make sense to other people. And so you're going to get cues and feedback where people are like, you're doing what? You're going where? Like, oh, like that's not, I don't know. I don't know about that. And you have to be able to say, like, I love you. I honor you. But like, my choices are my choices. Your choices are your choices. And I'm going to root into what I know to be true, what feels right for me. And then you spoke about this earlier, like that daily, very boring practice. We don't know what's right for us unless we sit with ourselves in very mundane, consistent ways all of the time. Um, it is not, as you said, Instagrammable, sexy. I have made the choice to sell and market the least sexy things that I am capable of teaching because they're the ones that actually work. I don't want to catfish people into thinking that business savvy and a manifestation practice and like doing fancy yoga poses is what's going to change their life, because it's not. It's sitting with yourself. It's being with your uncomfortable embodied sensations. It's making other people maybe a little concerned for you by making choices they don't agree with. That's what's going to change your life. So for that 33-year-old person, I hope hopefully that is supportive.
I feel like one of the things that you said that is so key, and I feel like if there's I don't know what I want from I want one person to hear any episode and be like, "Oh, that was it. I just needed to hear that one nugget." And I feel like one of the things you said is so powerful, and that is often when we're tuning in, when we're plugging in, when we're listening to ourselves, it's not going to make sense to anyone else. And almost that is like the cue. Oh, follow that. Keep going.
Right. Yeah. I was living in Brooklyn. I had just bought a brownstone. I had made it. I was, running a startup that was very popular, got the ping to move to the woods and create this like low cost monthly spiritual like everything I'm doing is like would be against my own best advice if I was going based off of like, well, I looked at the numbers and I looked at like the data, and I'd be like, Amanda, this is a bad like um that's kind of how you're on the right track, because it didn't come from logic. Where did it come from? Came from somewhere else, came from somewhere much cooler and more magical and more special. And, I wrote this newsletter last week that was about like why trust the process is like actually kind of bad advice. And so my advice is don't trust the process. Just keep showing up for the process. Come with your doubts, come with your fears, and help co-create the process. Because like to be like, oh, I'm just going to trust the process. I don't trust a lot of people. I don't trust almost anyone, right? I'm skeptical, and that's served me well. So it's like if you're 33, don't trust the process. Just keep showing up, start gathering data, and let the process earn your trust. Like the process has earned my trust over the past decade.
That's good. And I also think too, and this kind of comes full circle too, because it's sometimes I think we think, oh, when things are like in a state of flow and alignment, it just feels like it's really resonant and it like passes through and it's easy, like flowing like river water. But also too, I think there can be this friction, there can be this grit, because a lot of times what that truth is, it just doesn't map on to what anyone else is telling
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. it is, there's waves, right? There's waves where it feels great, and there's parts where you're like, "Whoa, ah, ah," you know? And I think society has become even more sort of as much as there is a lot more, like, diversity in certain ways, we didn't used to know what everyone was doing. So you could be off doing something weird and, like, not you would just be like, "I don't know. I don't know what anyone else is doing. I have no roadmap, so I'm just gonna do my own thing." Now there's, like, too many roadmaps. There's, like, too many examples of how you could be doing something or should, quote, unquote, "be doing something," and that's messing with us way more than the unknown.
Mhm. Yeah, that's right. I think that's right. Okay, last question, to pull it all full circle. Like, if there's a woman who's listening, she's, like, on the eve of her 40th birthday. What do you want her like, what would you say to her if you had a minute?
Yeah, there is nothing more important that you can do with your time and your energy than to befriend yourself with all of your eccentricities and all of your quirks and all the things that people have taught you not to like about yourself. Um, we cannot go through life not supporting who we came here to be because by 40, you kind of realize, like, I have certain things about me that maybe are not what I, quote, unquote, would have chosen, but they're true and they're real and they're here. And so, like, how do I go to the tailor and say, "All right, I got a big ass and no boobs. Help me out. Make me look hot." Right? You know what I mean? Like, like, you could go to the surgeon, right? You could go to the surgeon, right? But why not just go to the tailor and say, "Look, let's make me as hot as I can be," like, let's make life as, like, juicy and wonderful as you can make it. Because, like, you're in the maybe second half, at least for sure, like, the second 2/3 of your existence, and life does start to feel too short to worry about being who you didn't actually incarnate as. Like, yeah,
That's
it's
good.
time.
That's good. I wrote to myself on the night before my 40th birthday in this book, "Commit to the bit of being yourself."
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And, oh, it pains me when I see women that are, like, older that have not yet committed to the bit, because
Mhm.
any bit can work if you
Mhm. If you commit, you gotta commit to the bit.
you gotta commit. It's the halfway in, halfway out. Nobody's picking it up. Nobody's picking it up. I was just saying this to a client, like, if in a world where you can be anything, the last thing you wanna be is, like, halvesies.
Mhm.
No halvesies.
No
Whole ass.
halvesies.
Whole
No
ass living. No half-ass living.
whole ass, babe. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Amanda, for being
This is
here.
so fun.
There's so many gems, so many winks from the universe in this episode. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so fun.
I mean, I have no notes. No notes. I will say something that is sitting with me after re-listening to that episode is the grace. The grace. The grace. The grace that hindsight allows us to give to ourselves or not. When we look back on choices we've made, whether they were a long time ago or even recently, to have that grace and grace for each other, which is hard because it's really easy to layer our stories and our projections onto other people. Like, I'm doing it too. But grace, grace, grace. There's this Rumi line. It's like, oh my God, I need more grace than I thought. And sometimes we do. Often we do. Grace, grace, grace. Okay. You can find Amanda at all the links in the show notes. If you're looking for her, go find her. Good stuff there. Great stuff there. Maybe the stuff that is for you. And we're doing this kind of work at the 40 Portal Retreat, which is in the middle of June in the Hudson Valley. I have one spot left. And if that doesn't work for you, but you're curious about this work and working with me on this work, I have some one-on-one coaching spots opening up in May as well. Come find me. Come find me. Or not. That's okay too. Okay, send this episode to the women in your life who could use more grace than they thought, who might be compelled and vivified toward the question of how and why we can build lives for ourselves that move us closer to our truth. This is the 40 Portal Podcast. I'm Catherine Zack. I'll see you right back here next time.